Cape Cod Broadcasting weaves the listening environments of 99.9 WQRC, Ocean 104.7, WFCC Classical 107.5, Cape Country 104, and CapeCon.com's website experience to reflect the lifestyles of the people who live, work, and play on Cape Cod. We hope that you enjoy this podcast.
Good morning, I'm Rob Woodard. This is Sunday Journal. This morning I have Joe Ambrosini here. He is the founder of the Cape Cod Police Canine Relief Fund, which is a retirement fund for former police dogs. Joe is also a former canine handler and deputy superintendent for public safety for the Barnstable County Sheriff's Office. Good morning, Joe. Thanks for being here today.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
You bet. So tell me about the organization. When was it founded, and how did you get the idea?
The foundation, as you mentioned, I was a canine handler for the Sheriff's Department at one point in my career, and I formed this after I retired my dog. And what it does, this foundation, I checked with the IRS, and I spent a lot of time back and forth with them, and we came up with, I found a nice guy from the IRS. And
a nice guy from the IRS?
Believe
wow.
that?
Hope you kept his card.
I do. He's a great guy. He worked with me, and what we came up with was that I was trying to pay for food and medical bills for retired police dogs, but it didn't work that way. So what it turned out that I could pay for medical bills. So we worked there. That's a 501c3. And what it does is when the dogs retire, the departments don't pay for them anymore. They don't pay for the food, which this doesn't, but it doesn't pay for the medical bills. And the burden is on the officer. And as everybody knows, vet bills are not cheap. They're it's just like going to the doctors. Sure, yeah. And, science changed, and you have to pay for that. So this foundation, any law enforcement dog on the Cape, on the islands, federal, state, local, any law enforcement dog that's retired, and the handler keeps the dog for another 5 years. And
is that the average lifespan of the
or
dog?
longer. It could be longer, depending on when they retire. But this foundation pays for their medical bills. They can bring their dog to their vet, and the veterinarian emails me or the treasurer, Sarah Robinson, who's an accountant, bookkeeper, and she'll mail them a check. They pay for any medical bills that the dogs inquire.
So how old are these dogs when they retired? I would think that 99% of them, or is it 100% of them, are German Shepherds?
No. Actually, I worked a Rottweiler.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, I worked.
Wow.
He wasn't a big guy. He was 89 pounds, but you wouldn't be guessing his weight when he was attached to you. There's Belgian Malinois, there's Shepherds, there's Dutch herders.
Oh, okay.
It evolves just like science evolves in dogs for the right job.
Oh, yeah, I guess I've seen labs as drug-sniffing dogs.
We use labs for drug work.
Right.
The Sheriff's Department has labs. They were nice, friendly, user-friendly
Oh, yeah, I've
dog.
got one myself. Had labs for years, yeah.
Right.
So the dog comes in to the police department after he's been specially trained somewhere, and then how does that process work?
Well, what happens is generally the dogs are like a year and a half, and most of the dogs are imported because it's
imported
just like
from overseas?
Overseas, like Germany, Czechoslovakia. They still breed for the breed, and I hate to say that. I mean, there's a lot of good American breeders, but they breed for the breed, and just like a good hunting dog, if you take good stock, male and female, the mother and father, and they're champion dogs and they're good hunting dogs, there's a good chance you're going to get good puppies. Not all of them are going to be good, but your odds are much, much better that the dog has very good bloodline.
Right.
And the trait is there for the hunt. And
I don't want to get off on a tangent, but what do you mean the American dogs are bred for what? For looks?
The Germans, the overseas, they have judges and they do the extra thing. I mean, I'm not pputting down any breeder in the United States.
Sure.
There are breeders that breed for money. That's period.
Okay.
They don't breed because of the temperament. I mean, my dog, he was first generation in the United States. His mother and father had to pass temperament test, hardness test. Health. I mean, everything. And if that dog doesn't pass that, you don't get a certificate of breeding. And I'm not going to breed my dog with your dog if he doesn't have a certificate.
Got it.
In other words, the dog doesn't have hip dysplasia. I mean, all these things try to be bred out of the dog, and they try to make them as pure as they can as far as their working ability.
Right.
So they're about a year and a half, 2 years old. They live with a family sometimes over there to be brought up in a family atmosphere. They're generally doing a little bite work in tracking. So you know that they're capable of doing that. The old days when I first started, we would take a dog and get halfway through a class and find out he's not going to make it. Not every German Shepherd's a police dog. You know, it's a science. You know, and you waste time and money. You know, and that's,
right, like anything else. If you get halfway through and he doesn't complete,
what do you do with the dog?
Right.
If the family, the handler's attached, the family's attached, you skip all that by buying a dog from a reputable, you know, breeder that breeds working dogs. Period. Just like a bird dog, just like a lab, or any other dog. You know, if you're going to buy a race car, you buy a race car.
Sure.
So with that, like I said, we pay for their vet bills at the end, when they retire.
And so the dog comes to he's been trained and he comes to the police department at about 2 years old, would you say?
Yeah, a year and a half, 2 years old. And then from there, him and the handler, so they work together, they'll go another 12 weeks, every day for 12 weeks or longer, depending on what they're doing for work. So by the time that handler in the canine graduate, they're a team.
Right.
The dog knows the handler knows the dog. You can read your dog. If you need to help him, you help him. You know what he's thinking. I mean, you're a team.
Sure. And so once the dog goes into service, it probably obviously depends on what the dog is exposed to, the dog himself or her. Is it males only or males and females?
I've seen females too. Yeah, so, females are more mothery. They'll stay closer to the handle than.
Right.
But I've seen some great female canines. Absolutely, yeah.
So then the dog goes into service, and then what's the average length of time for the service?
Providing they're healthy, and the guys train. I mean, all the guys I always train with, and you always put more in than you have to minimum.
Right.
There's a minimum training. It's I think it's still 2 days a month. And guys, I mean, when I was on the job, we used to meet somewhere and lay a track or do a little bite work or do some. The guys are always working with their dogs, so they're proficient. You know, it's your partner, and it's not just a tool. It's not a gun. You don't put it away when you go home. You know, there's a whole bonding there. And once they do that, you know, I mean, when it works great.
And then the dog is in service for, what, 6-7 years?
No,
something like that?
They're like 2 years old, and then obviously depending on their health, they're a good maybe 8 to 10 years.
Okay, so then you're talking about a 10-year-old dog.
Correct.
And then, so that dog can still have plenty of life. And
Absolutely.
As he gets older, obviously the vet bills probably mount up as he becomes, a little more infirm and he requires more medical attention. So what is your aim was just to take that financial burden of medical care for the animals off the police officer and his family?
Correct.
Okay.
And like I said, and I can't emphasize it, it's not everybody knows. Everybody that can hear me, when they take their dog to the vet, it's not $50 anymore.
Oh, no.
And like I said, and it's because of the science. You know, vet, just like doctors, they know more than they've ever known, and the equipment's more money. And I mean, it's just like everything else.
Do you have any idea what the average cost for your dogs are for the dogs that you help?
Well, I'll tell you, we run close to the bone. We run tight. Every penny goes back in. You know, all the volunteers, they're volunteers. Nobody gets paid. There's expense to running this thing, but it's bare minimal. And what I do with the volunteers, actually, we have a meeting tonight. I'm gonna buy them pizza. We have a meeting tonight because we have a fundraiser coming up. But everything goes to the vet. I mean, the cost of the dog. Last year we were very, very thin, and I knock on wood, we haven't lost any. We haven't gone to zero yet, but pretty close. And right after the February fundraiser last year, 2 officers needed money, and both of them needed over $4,500.
Oh boy!
And that's what I said, and I was stressing out.
Yeah.
And we have 2 events, and we can talk about it later. We have 2 events a year, and like I said, we run tight to the bone.
Right.
You know.
I'm talking with Joe Ambrosini. He is the head of Cape Cod Police Canine Relief Fund, which is a retirement fund for former police dogs. This is Sunday Journal, of course. So tell me about the event you have. Well, let me ask you first, who are the majority of your donors? Do you get former cops and people of that persuasion, I would think, law enforcement people, or do you also see broad support from the community at large?
We have a great broad support from all of everybody on Cape Cod. They have been very generous. All the merchants, they've donated items, which we gather items for this particular thing coming up. But everybody's been great. I can't say enough. And unfortunately, some people don't realize the worth of that dog until they need them and they find their elderly mother in the woods, or they get a bad guy, or find drugs or find property lost or stolen. But my own personal experience, I found two elderly people that would have probably passed if I didn't find them, and that's pretty rewarding for me.
I'm sure.
Yeah, it's a thing that you put everything into it, and then there's the person,
right?
And you find him, and
the dog's wagging his tail.
Oh yeah. It's pretty. As corny as it sounds, but
right.
it's a good feeling.
I'm sure it is.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the event you have coming up. It's on Sunday, February 22nd. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
At the Yarmouth House. This will be, I believe, it's the 12th year, and it's the last Sunday in February. And I figured we'll do it in February because everybody will have cabin fever by then. It starts at 3:00 to 7. We have, like I said, we got people out putting the arm on everybody for gifts, and
right.
And anything over $100, we have a silent auction, and anything under that is a raffle. The donation is $50, but between the food and if you buy raffle tickets, there's a pretty good chance that you're going to walk out of there with more than you spent with items and food.
Right.
Teddy Zambellis from the Yarmouth House puts a great spread out for us. The waitresses and waiters love to work it because they buy tickets, and everybody wins. Because, like I said, the merchants have been great. People have been great. We always have more than we need, which means that, at the end, generally it's like, did anybody not win something? If so, come up here and pick something out. So everybody, it's a good time, and we get people from, every cross of, it doesn't necessarily, you don't have to have a police dog to be there.
Right, of course.
We have a great turnout with the public.
And this is you think the 12th year for it?
Yes, I believe it's the 12th year. I got a good memory. It's just short.
And how many people generally attend these events?
Well, the people come and go, but usually 150, 200 people.
Oh, so that's a good turnout.
It's a nice turnout,
right?
And like I said, I don't think I've met anybody that hasn't gone and had a good time. It's just a good time. Everybody, anybody that likes animals can't be all bad, right? And
right.
That's generally what whether you own a horse or a dog or a cat.
Sure.
It's about the animals.
And in the 12 years that the organization has been in existence, how many dogs do you think you've benefited?
To be honest with you, I don't know because it rotates. The dog that came on today is going to retire.
Oh, right. Okay.
So it's been going on. I think we average like 6 dogs. We're always maintaining like 6 dogs all the time. Because of the dogs, they like I said, if a dog goes on today, he's going to retire, and then a year from now, another dog might retire and another dog joins up.
Oh, so it's always flexible.
It's rotating constantly.
Right.
It's moving forward constantly.
But would you say, it sounds to me in this time frame, you've benefited probably at least 100 animals?
No,
Is that fair?
I wouldn't say that because, like I said, if it's 12 years,
yeah, 60 or 70, something like that.
In the some dogs. I mean, we had one of my guys that on the sheriff's department was going on a call and he flipped his cruiser.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, it was pretty sad. And the dog got his leg caught in the cage and they had to amputate it. And he was only like, I think he was like 2.5, 3 years old.
Oh, so he's got a long retirement.
So we took care of him. I mean, there's different circumstances. The dog might retire younger. And it's our obligation as far as I'm concerned, because whether he did a year of service, or 10 years of service, I think it's a small token of appreciation.
Absolutely. He was part of the team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they contribute. They do stuff that people don't do, and they'll go in and grab a bad guy.
I've seen the shows where they have these guys going, these bad guys, and the dog goes right in there, and that guy is down on his knees or whatever.
Absolutely.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, building searches. I mean, the dog will go in and finding, there's not enough,
right.
that they're, and when a good dog is working, the cavalry just got here. It's a big deterrent.
Right.
So.
Now back to the event you're having on the 22nd. Obviously, that's one of your major fundraisers during the year. And what is the other one that you do?
The other one was in the last Saturday in September. We have a motorcycle run.
Oh.
And that motorcycle run starts at Patriot Square. And goes to the wharf in P-Town.
Right.
And it's a straight run. It's a good run.
I remember that, in fact.
It's a fun run.
Right.
Everybody loves it. Weather dictates.
Right.
But so we have 2 a year.
Okay. And now, if someone wants to support the organization, how can they go about doing that? If they can't make the ride or the event on the 22nd, how can they do it?
They can go to CapeCodPoliceK9.org.
Okay.
We have a website. And also, if they can send a donation to the Cape Cod Police Canine Relief Fund, P.O. Box 582, South Dennis, Mass. 02660. But if they can go online and they can see what we do, and you can see some pictures of the dogs and working. And
great. Yeah, I did that this morning in preparation for this. So, yeah. Well, it's great work, Joe, and I wish you continued success. Really, it's a great program, and I hope you get a lot of people at the event on the 22nd at the Yarmouth House Restaurant from 3 to 7. That is a Sunday. Thanks for being here today, Joe. I have Joe Ambrosini here this morning. He is the head of Cape Cod Police Canine Relief Fund, which is a retirement fund for former police dogs. We were talking about his effort to ease the burden to retired police dogs owners for their medical treatment. I'm Rob Woodard. This is Sunday Journal.
This podcast is a presentation of Cape Cod Broadcasting, which is solely responsible for its content. Thank you for listening. For more information, please visit us at capecodbroadcasting.com.